Okay, the time is 4:30 and we'll start the work session. First item on the agenda is continuing the conversation with EDAC and Trace Faust.
Guys are gonna have to take
Sure.
turns.
Okay. All right, should we get started? We've got 30 minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Um, is it fair if we start in here kind of, I know that there's been a lot going on. Could we listen first? What's been going on?
Sure.
Yeah, so wherever that's coming from, that's my point is, yeah, great, perfect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, council members and mayor and staff for having us here to continue our discussion of us working together. Kind of keep it on the umbrella level, just kind of to state what we've been working on this summer. First off, I want to introduce, obviously, Ariel here. We're very excited to have her join our team and, with her excitement and dedication to not only EDAC, but also all the Dillon Business Club participation. We're just excited to kind of see momentum building with our business community here in Dillon. In our past EDAC meetings, I think one thing we wanted to kind of get off our chest is the intention of EDAC, how we approach things. So as a group, we created an EDAC pledge, kind of stating everything, and I'm happy to share it with staff members if they like it, just so it's kind of in writing and for you to all understand what we're committed to and how we approach our duties as EDAC committee members. So if anyone is interested, we have it here, and I'm happy to pass it out. I should pass it over to Joe. Yeah.
Ariel, I can, go ahead.
Do you want to talk, just give voice to it?
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of it as an EDAC without voting or decision-making authority does not carry the same legal responsibilities as elected council members. However, as an official advisory body, it has important duties of stewardship, objectivity, and service to the entire community. And we kind of lined it up as 5 core components, which is the first of duty of loyalty to the town. The second is duty of competence and diligence. The third is duty of candor and intellectual honesty. Our fourth is duty to maintain proper advisory boundaries and duty of fairness and public trust. And I think the last thing to point out is the core principle, the credibility of EDAC comes not from political power, but from the quality of its analysis, factual integrity, and commitment to the long-term interests of this community. So, with all the communication and talking, we thought it was very important to get it in writing. And just so you all as a council understand how we approach our monthly sessions. And, we take this responsibility very seriously. And we look forward to continuing to work together to keep enjoying where we love and keep helping build it. Do we have any, questions? I know you haven't had a chance to fully read them, but please, if you have any questions, let us know. But we just wanted to kind of get that over with and continue focusing on the more important parts. Moving on from that, this summer, I think we're very excited to kind of share some of the wins that we think we accomplished alongside with town staff on helping further move our economic development. I think one that we see every day when we drive in is getting that signage addressed. A lot of these seem like low-hanging fruit, but it is absolutely a pleasure to see, no that sign not being empty in there, that vinyl kind of filling up those 4 vinyl signs up there. The new sale signs on Lake Dillon Drive look really nice painted. And speaking with Ned, we're very excited to hear that there will be text pointing to the different kind of revenue sources we have in the core area. So that is a great win there. Also, we've had great communication with our town staff. I want to give a big shout out to Evan Dawson, Jonathan Blank, Ned West. The back and forth we've had them with them has been, I think, very positive, understanding, like, for example, Dillon Ridge, trying to address some of the signage concerns business owners have there. And instead of just, talking about a problem, starting to line up a path for solutions on resolution. And Ned has been kind enough to give us ways where we can get those addressed. So together, I think we can get much, much closer to getting those items resolved. Also, I'm very excited to see that we have been getting more information from, Jonathan Blank going out and looking at our occupancy of businesses and then putting in surveys to try to gather more information on what businesses need. And I think that alongside with Dillon Business Club, continuing to gauge and trying to put a large and strong voice together for our business community will help us continue to get more information so we can make the best decision and provide advice that is rooted in facts. And I think another important component is we're very excited to get more information about our town budget. I think we're very grateful for all the work that Carrie has been putting in because, personally myself, when we started EDAC, I didn't understand, I wasn't well rooted in our town budget. And I think having this information now that us as a group is able to learn, investigate in on what is working, where there may be gaps that need to be help addressed, and just allows us to kind of focus where the numbers, the facts are kind of sharing where we may need assistance with. If there's any other kind of items this summer that you think we need to share, but I think we're continuing to move along.
So with regards to Dillon Business Club, I want to let you know that we are going to apply for grants. I think it's the August 13th.
The 12th, if I'm not mistaken.
So we have a DBC meeting next few days.
Tomorrow.
Be tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to sit down as a group and we're going to fill the application. Part of that pledge that we made to you and also applying for the grant, I mean, we can fund ourselves. That's, we want to show that we're partnering with the town. So we have to agree to certain things. Apply for that grant and we have to be aligned to show that that's the case. So you'll see that coming through shortly.
And I do want to share one more thing too. I want to also appreciate, share my appreciation for your patience too, because, this first year as an EDAC committee, it's been a lot of information gathering. And I think, for the next conversation on the agenda, when it talks about, the next town manager that comes in, that person, depending on how much experience and knowledge they have of the town, you're going to need to have a little bit of time to actually understand, pop the hood out of the car and kind of see what's going on underneath. And, we're getting close to a full year of this EDAC being active. So again, thank you so much for kind of riding through with us on still kind of learning. And we're going to never stop learning. But that first 12 months, it's been a lot of information gathering, dissecting. So just want to share our appreciation on while we work on that.
I also spoke with my property manager at Miller Real Estate, which is the owner of Dillon Ridge. And he's going to try and come to the Dillon Business Club meetup next Monday. So I kind of let him know what's going on and, that we wanted them to be a part of the conversation. So I invited him and I invited Nordstrom Rack too, because they're coming and they want to get involved in the community. So they had actually reached out to us just figuring out how they can become involved in the community. And so I invited them and hopefully they show up and it sounds like they want to be a part of what's going on up here.
So I think those are the major, talking points I had to kind of start this conversation. So happy to kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. Appreciate that update. I'm thinking of the conversation we had last time where folks were kind of saying, go on these things and kind of pause on these things. And so would be kind of curious to flip it to council first of like any reactions or thoughts around what was just shared before we sort of talk around, okay, how do we continue? Where do we continue to go from here? So yeah, thoughts or questions in response to what was just shared.
Start on the left. And Kyle?
Well, gosh, I missed a little bit of it. Just before coming here, I was looking at our website. I think it's pretty awesome that the Dylan blog has information on there from. The cafe is still in business. Bug Ryan's is still in business. Bug Ryan Tiki Bar is still going strong. So it'd be really great to get that up to date and support the right businesses. Selling ourselves is something we're not. So you look at it. But I'm sorry. Get anything of. I'm glad to hear Nordstrom Rack wants to already get involved, and thanks for reaching out to them. That's great.
Anna?
I don't have anything at this time.
Linda?
Nothing at the moment.
Oh, I think it's great. So I'm gonna come on. I like the pledge. I like what all the pieces you just put together. I agree. It's a lot of 12 months of information gathering, and it does take that kind of research, So I love the fact that you reached out to Miller and Nordstrom, and I say, yeah, any way we can get people more involved, let's do it. And I'm glad that you've had a great experience working with staff. So I like all of the whole report. There you go.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're reaching out to Miller because, as you know, they hold the sign, and I know there's problems with signage in the town, and especially over there, and hoping he will come to the town and try to get that modified.
Yeah, and I actually started that conversation with them back in December on my own. And so I was actually following up on that conversation along with, Christmas lighting and things like that. But the sign was a big one, especially with potentially the movie theater not being there anymore and Nordstrom Rack coming in. There's a lot of potential. So, and they see it too. And I think they've had some shifting of their board or leadership. And so they're more open to talking with everyone to make something that really draws people in.
Yeah,
versus
because
just-
there's going to be, with that monument there, it's going to have a totally different
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. So I think we can all collaborate on it and keep that moving.
Yeah. Okay.
There's, one update too. There's Ariel and Dillon Business Club. We had our first extended board meeting. Ariel and Nick.
Yeah.
So Ariel and Nick joined the board. One of our tasks is we're going to divide up, many hands make small work. So we're going to businesses. I'll reach out to them, get them involved, and just keep building momentum on these mixers. Sooner or later, we're going to be able to do things more substantial, education, some events, but still outreach. So we're becoming more formal. We thought it was time to approach the town. Since we are a nonprofit, we thought it'd be a good idea to apply for that grant.
So I really, the reports that are done, the research reports that represent the pluses and minuses, I find like really valuable because it saves me a ton of time from doing research, and I get to see both sides of an issue and the research that's been done to educate everybody. And I really find that valuable. And thank you for,
We're so grateful to have Carrie McDonald.
yeah,
The numbers are,
yes.
they tell a story and it's crystal and it's
Yeah.
based on facts.
So I don't stop that stuff. I find it important. Just my,
I want to jump in. I just know we have limited time and thinking squarely in the EDAC lane. We kind of had a little bit of a list that you all were working on from the last time. And so you reported on some of those things. Would like for you to share a little bit around where you see your, what are your priorities like at this point now moving forward based on sort of that conversation we had with council? Like, what are you all up to? And I want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as what we're spending our time on. So I'd love to hear kind of y'all's interpretation of sort of, okay, now this is what we're continuing to work on, or this is where we're headed next. And let's kind of make sure that we're all aligned on that and then keep things moving because we're just looking at time.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So for this month's EDAC meeting, we do want to kind of really dive into and dedicate the majority of our time next Wednesday to the budget. We just think it's, we only meet once a month as an EDAC group. And I think now that we have, and following today's kind of conversation, diving into the budget, I think kind of just having the economic focus is something that will, I think, help us understand and dictate what we want to focus going into the fall. And then we would also love to open up any feedback on, now that summer's ending, we're going to the fall, winter. I remember, Barbara, you mentioned on our last meeting, kind of think winter, right? Think, give yourself a couple of months so you can actually, you give a recommendation, and if the town sees it fit, there is an action plan to achieve that. So, right now, I think it's almost another dive in to kind of learn where we think maybe our focus needs to be, and alongside your feedback, we can really narrow on what we should be focused on for the next 6 months. Because we can run in many directions. We're very passionate about that, but I think we could focus on one or two and get some tangible results. I think that's something that all of us see value in.
Yeah, the goal would be to not run in too many directions, right? Here's my question then maybe. So are you saying that where you feel like EDAC is at is that you all would like to identify those based on sort of your review of where things are at with the budget and come back to say, here's kind of where we see focus areas where we'd like to go deeper on?
I think you hit it right on the nail.
Okay. Thoughts from you all around, and I'm curious, Scott, looking at you also at the table, but both from the town and from the council perspective, does that sound like the right piece? Obviously, like that, the self-identification from EDAC around the kind of next focus areas based on, perceptions of budget versus sort of you feeling like you have things top of mind that you'd like for them to focus their time on right now for the next 6 months. Curious thoughts.
So I think this is probably a new endeavor for EDAC. This is something we do every year with PRAC. But for PRAC, we're looking at projects that are in the 5-year capital plan and different areas, whether it's disc golf or cemetery or our parks or the amphitheater. There's a variety of things that they look at, but they look at that to see where things are sort of set on the existing 5-year plan. And then based on that, they may or may not make recommendations to council for their consideration as they go through the budget process. And I think that EDAC has expressed an interest to take a look and sort of do a similar thing.
Okay.
So
I had a question. So are you working on this 5-year plan now? Is this the beginning of it, process, or?
So a 5-year plan is sort of a living document. What I'm waiting for, and I'll work with Carrie McDonald on it, is just an adjustment of where we're at right now on that plan so that you guys have a more current copy of what we've done. And then you guys at your next meeting can kind of look at what's been mapped out. But those 5-year plans, it's something that we do as a part of the budget process every year.
And so that would be available for like the September EDAC meeting?
Yeah, that's, so we had our PRAC meeting last night and I told them that in September, that's when I have the 5-year plan together.
For the September meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. So curious then, so Scott, am I understanding right that you're like, yes, as far as the budget goes, but as it relates to this kind of like rolling 5-year plan, right? As far as like what we're asking them to focus
Right,
in
I mean,
on.
we're really focused in on on 27.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also, I think, important to look at certain projects may be staged over time in
Mhm.
terms of waterfront improvements or something like that. And so there's not everything, there's certain items in there that are a part of mandated services that EDAC isn't going to necessarily be able to touch. And we'll talk with them
Right.
about that. But, you know, just a roadmap in terms of improvements in certain things that may be of interest to EDAC, and what does that look like over time, whether it's, I'm thinking mainly, I know there might be some interest in waterfront improvements or something like that, so.
What's
Or the Dura plan.
or the
Town Plaza. I mean, there's various pieces and parts that are all in there.
There are.
So here's my question. You all have a meeting next week, but you're not getting the 5-year kind of updated plan until the September meeting. What do you need for your time to feel meaningful maybe next week? Or is there a conversation, Scott and or council, that feels like helpful in the interim, right? I'm just thinking of making sure that we're not going down any sort of rabbit holes that actually would then be like, well, why did we just spend 2 hours talking about that once you get the plan in September? So what would be a worthwhile, either from y'all, I'm just kind of curious, can we talk about that just since
Well, I
that
think
meeting's coming up?
they've come up with some ideas for longer range planning, and I think that within that context, that maybe you be thinking about what does that look like year to year for to achieve those goals, and so it might be worthwhile. I mean, I'm happy to give you the draft as it stands now for next week for the capital that you can look at. The meeting that we had at PrAC last night was just really to get everybody thinking about it. The advantage that we have in PrAC is that we've been everything that's in the capital 5-year plan, we've been talking about for years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty familiar with it. I'm new to EDAC. I think probably, you know, there's some new members on EDAC too, who just really aren't familiar with that process. So, but the mission for PrAC last night was to be thinking about projects that individuals know about and want to campaign for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we have our September meeting and we have a more up-to-date 5-year plan, then they can all look at that and make recommendations on what recommendation they want to give to council.
Mm-hmm.
So something that Jessica Taylor had mentioned, and I don't know if it landed or not because it was more conversational, but Jessica was saying that it may be, you know, we'd like to offer to council. We're more than happy to get together, you know, if you want to get together for a few hours and we spoke about a couple of different topics, we could share with you what we come from, what we're thinking about, what our skills are, what we know. And do it more in a getting to know each other manner. Happy to do that. We like to make that offer again, so fall in your court.
So like a partial day retreat, something like that?
I know that you're doing something with Carrie McDonald, and I'm sure that's going to be excellent. Something of that nature is just if we have topics that you want to get together over, or if you want to learn anything from our side, or you want to know us better. So you could do it a couple ways. You come to a mixer at DBC, you do it informal, or we can sit down. So it's up to you.
Can I make a suggestion? Okay. I'm wondering, based on kind of what we're all talking, I'm saying this to you all and also to the council and to Scott, thinking about not having the updated draft plan, but I hear the offer, but obviously they're like, you'd want more of the finalized, you know, where it stands to have that conversation. What I get nervous for is that you spend time talking about a project that actually isn't in the priorities of the 5-year plan. I'm wondering if kind of blending what Sean is just talking about, you all spend some time in the meeting building sort of like a profile of who EDAC is in this current moment, of like what you bring to the table and what you would be eager to offer expertise on and dialogue on around different issue areas. Not necessarily diving into 1 or 2 specific projects yet, but more of like here are the 5 to 7 topic areas or subject matter expertise areas we feel like we cover. And then when you have that conversation in September with the plan, folks are actually, or like you actually share that out with the council and the town staff beforehand to saying like, this is the lens that we're looking at this through, right? Through these kind of like 5 areas of expertise.
Yeah, we have different.
That sort of
business
thing.
profiles.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think a mixer is like at some point, but I think it might be interesting for you all to sit down and almost build that profile for current members of EDAC around like who you are and what you bring to the table. Does that exist? Maybe is it, so more, this is a question. Would
Yeah.
that feel like meaningful or like helpful?
So I mean, I think to root ourselves again is, this is all volunteer time, right?
Right,
All our
right.
EDAC members are, and our time is valuable as well. And we can only dedicate so much time in a
Mhm.
monthly basis. So, I hope the town sees us as a resource and to kind of help us, work on projects that not only we think are timely and needed to have focused attention on, but also, use our diverse perspectives, our backgrounds and everything to help, address these big questions we have as a town in the near future and long future. We have to think both perspectives, and you have 6, 7 individuals that are, ready to put in time outside of their everyday lives to look for the greater town of Dillon. So I think, we can spend a little time kind of putting that in writing,
Mhm.
but I think that the facts are pretty clear, and we just want to make sure no one's time is being wasted and we're not
Right.
running around circles for 2 months just for nothing to be long. And I think we had a great learning opportunity in the first winter where we had these, how do we bring money into Dillon in the wintertime, right? We had these ideas for lake loops, and I think one of the best things we had was the engagement with staff from all sorts of departments, and they really put it into perspective on lake loops are short period. Obviously, we saw this winter, it's not a guarantee. And, we kind of squashed that big project we had as a group and initially to focus on stuff that, would bear more fruit for everyone involved. So I think, that with engagement from town council staff really kind of make sure we're using EDAC as efficiently as possible.
For advisory, we have certain skills and we can help you
Right.
by bringing some of that to the table.
I have a question. So you have your 5-year plan that you guys are putting together. So if you bring it to us in September, do you want us to, you said it's living, so we can give recommendations and work together on that, or you want us to give you ideas? You want us to build out the ideas? Because I want to make sure that you're not coming to us with a final draft and then we're tearing it apart and you're like, that's not what I asked for.
You have to keep in mind that the 5-year has been continuing with ongoing projects in it that were a priority for council.
Okay.
It's fine for you to look at that lineup and provide some comments on
Okay.
those existing. But also if you have some new additional ideas that you think would be a benefit
Okay.
for council to consider, you would look at that, you'd prepare a list, maybe do some research, and then make a recommendation. And usually the recommendation, what we do on PrAC is I will assist the chairman in drafting a memo to council for their review as they're going through the 5-year capital plan.
Okay, cool. So we want to recommend and read it and kind of help you guys do some more of the work underground. So you guys don't have to do all the research yourself to come up with ideas and
And
fulfill them.
just to clarify, in two EDAC meetings ago, it was mentioned that I think this was the top 5-year plan where there was, top 5 items that the town council wanted to work on, and all 4 out of the top 5, which included the amphitheater, were addressed, and the one that was identified that needs the most work on is this downtown area of Dillon. Would it also be helpful to get EDAC's perspective to kind of put the town core on the top of that list on what the priority should be, and kind of also create a new kind of list on maybe subcategories in there to kind of, from an economic perspective, think what we should be kind of working on in the next 5 years?
Yeah, town center. So Scott, that, the work plan for PrAC, is that have you guys looked at that at all? The work plan from PrAC? Would that work as a framework for them? Do you
It
think?
would. I haven't brought that forward yet.
Okay,
I was waiting really for a couple meetings
yeah,
to get a sense of kind of where they were at and what they were working on. But my intention would be that, at the end of the year to put together a work plan for 27 for EDAC, like we
Yeah.
do for PrAC.
yeah, and that's the thing is it is a good framework. I don't remember who developed it. It's been around for years. And I do think it helps though, keep everything on the list and moving forward. And so it's that structure thing. So,
And really, it's a conversation because like
Yeah.
right now, in September, we're going to review the 5-year plan. They're going to make a recommendation that goes to you guys. You guys will deliberate and set the budget. Then that will come back to PrAC, and then that will inform the work plan for 27 on what are the priorities that they're going to be working on for the town.
yeah, because the budget really is the roadmap.
It
I
is.
mean, that is, yeah.
So Andre, Trace, a few minutes for wrap up.
Yeah, I have a question. If you're willing to share where it stands now, did I hear that right? The 5-year plan?
Yeah, give me some time to chat with Carrie and find out where we're
Okay.
at with that. But there's some things that we've been editing.
Yeah.
And so I think by the end of this week,
Great.
but let me
That would give you
have that
something.
conversation and see where we're at. And
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
I think that would be, so I was going to say like a little bit of what I was referencing around the building the profile of the current members of EDAC and kind of like what lens you're looking through. That's a little bit more dialed in than just like, we're business owners in the area, but more like literally what are your expertise areas, right? And that might be one way to spend a portion of that agenda. And then the rest would be to like be reviewing this draft that you get from Scott so that you can have a little bit more of a robust conversation in September when you have the finalized piece to sort of like riff on. So that way you at least know, generally speaking, what's on the list already. Does that sound right? Yeah, cool. Anything else?
I have one question. A lot of people don't know what EDAC is, and so are you guys okay if I take a video and make a little post about it? Just, I'm trying to get more of the word out there and explain to people what town council's doing, what EDAC's doing, and I just feel like it's a lot of really good people in here. That's why I'm here. So if you guys are okay, I was gonna take a video to just maybe everyone waving. I'm gonna need you all to say yes if you want to be in it.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I think it's good because even like, whatever, Coffee with Council, they ask, we don't use EDAC, we spell it out, Economic Development Advisory Committee, because nobody knows the acronym.
Okay, I'm gonna go in a circle, if that's okay. Anyone that doesn't want to be in it, you can just hide. Okay, ready? Go.
Us or?
Oh, everyone. Thank you.
Anything else to wrap up you'd like to address in a minute or so?
Just want to say, as a business owner here in town, it's been a pretty fun summer. I know we've been very nervous on what the summer was going to look like, but I think there's a lot of positives that we are seeing, and we just want to continue to build on those. So again, very appreciative of everyone involved, the community, council member, and big shout out to town staff. They are working very, very hard, and we are seeing that every day on the street. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, town manager's search proposal review. Scott,
Ready. Mr.
You're
Mayor,
ready?
thank you. Yes. So we issued an RFP for the executive search firm, as you know, with a deadline of July 31st for proposals. And in the summary that I provided you, I listed, generally speaking, really kind of what the scope was that we were looking for. We received 3 competitive proposals sent out to everyone. And hopefully everyone got those and was able to look at those. I think these are very competitive, really nice proposals. We specifically targeted some firms that had a lot of experience in mountain resort community. We thought that was probably a better fit for us. And so I would be happy to, I've reviewed some of these, but I think it would be great if council had input on what their thoughts are. And if we have some direction on maybe who you would like us to work with on an agreement for services.
I'd like to hear from our council members. I did review, but I'd like to hear from everybody first, I guess. Herb?
I looked them all over. I think, all three proposals are, everyone has, good experience in the mountains. I thought it looked really good. I thought, it was nice to have three choices, because I thought they were all qualified. So, for me, I don't really have any questions on it. Well, I guess my only thought was, do we ever talk to them in person first, or is that something that the town manager does, or?
Yeah, if you guys have a preference on which firm, if you have questions on what more information you would like, I'd be happy to reach out to them. Or if you are ready to pick one or the other and want to talk about maybe some additional scope that maybe we didn't consider, I'd be happy to do that.
No, it was more like they all look good on paper. Is it important for us to actually talk to them live in person or Zoom in person?
I don't think you need to. I can tell you that all three firms are, I mean, you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want,
No,
but
yeah,
all three are very good firms.
that's what I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
so they all look competent. So in my mind, my thought was we could just vote on paper and choose one, but I don't know how you do it.
However you guys want to
Okay.
do it. Yeah.
That's my thought.
Linda, what?
Yeah, same here. I agree. All three of them seemed great. I did lean towards one, over the three once I read through them all.
Okay.
And if not meeting them in person or if we're not going to do that, I think I could make a decision this evening, if
Okay.
was part of the question.
Let me just let me check with Catherine first. Catherine, do you think that we should be doing interviews for these? Or do you think they can make a selection based on the proposals that we've received?
It's really up to your comfort level. I mean, if part of these executive search firms is the people behind it. And so if you want to know the people behind it, then have interviews. Scott sent them to me as well, right? And I know two of the firms, but not the third, and I think any of them on paper will do a fine job, and probably any of them in real life will do a fine job. So if you're comfortable with the information that you have in making a decision, you could, I think, give direction to Scott tonight, because we can't actually vote in work sessions. Well, we can, but it's not a formal meeting. You could give direction to him tonight to enter into a contract with one of those. Or if you want to have somebody at your next meeting to present their proposals or interview them, you could do that as well. The world is your oyster.
Should we vote? Should it be in secret? Should they email me with their preference on who they want?
I think you should have discussion in the open meeting. I don't think a secret vote would be appropriate in the public meeting.
Which company handled the town of Silverthorne again of the three?
GMP.
Carrie, help me out here.
GMP.
Was it
I thought it was.
GMP or Carrie? I think it was GMP, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there were two that, one that, town has used in the past. Right?
I had a question. I did have a question about that too. but Go ahead.
The
Rachel.
town had used.
And I don't remember. Yeah, and I don't remember.
I think I remember seeing it.
He said he was a
That's something.
facilitator for the past 3 years here,
Mark Collins.
that he's done multiple presentations for different things here in the last 3 years.
Get those.
And I don't recall who the firm was. Carrie McDonald was the acting town manager in 2019 was the last time.
Do you know what he was facilitating on? Or is that, I guess that was just kind of,
I thought I had recalled.
Multiple strategic planning sessions for the town of Dillon over the past 3 years. I don't remember what those were for.
Shannon?
Wasn't on for the last 3 years, so I wouldn't remember him. Is that the question?
So is there your thoughts on the three?
Yeah, after
Or-
reading through the three of them, I have one that, that I felt kind of checked all the boxes, and that would be GMP. And, talking to a couple of people in Silverthorne, they felt like the process went smoothly, although this is a different facility. The project manager or whatever on this one is different than the one for Silverthorne.
Right.
But they felt that the company delivered with what they promised, and I think that's a good indicator.
Kyle?
My inexperience on picking out someone to help us with a search. It's just drawing straws for me. Sorry.
Okay, I like the first one a little bit better because they have a lot of Colorado experience, but I think all three of them are good. I would say number one is the LM, and the second one would be GMP, and my third choice would be the last one. PM.
Barb?
Yeah, if you want me to pick, I would say, I didn't know if I should start off that way. So GMP is the one I liked. I liked the 18-month guarantee in there. And also, same thing, I'd kind of checked with some people at Silverthorne, thought it went very well. They're my top choice.
I'm leaning towards GMP also.
yeah, my choice was GMP. I did like the senior consultant who seems to have a lot of experience with some towns that I'm familiar with that's had some good success, and their backgrounds all seem to be right on for something that, or what we're looking for. So I would go with GMP as well.
Fine with that one.
You,
Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't know Bill.
Okay.
um,
So that is consensus, so I'll go ahead and give these guys a call.
okay. Is there anything else from the
The-
review we need to?
The other thing I wanted to mention is that I sent all of you a draft timeline with a couple caveats. So Catherine and I worked on this together, but the one thing I want to say is that keep in mind that when we bring the search firm on board, some of the dates on this schedule may move, and we're going to keep in mind also that we're going to have to plug in some exercises at council meetings concerning the job description and the qualities and attributes that you're looking for a town manager. But Catherine and I will work with the consultant on those meetings with you. So.
Yeah, and so there are certain, as Scott and I were working through this, there are some open meeting laws tentacles that have their tentacles in this search. And so there are certain things that the council has to decide in an open meeting, and there are certain things that you can delegate to a search committee. There are certain things that if you delegate to a search committee, like the job description, and the outline of the process, they'll still have to be approved in a public meeting. So my recommendation is always that council just approves that at the beginning of the process anyway. I just went through this with GMP with another client a month ago, so it's fresh in their mind. They know how to go through that process. I've seen how they work it, and they'll do a fine job. But that will be something that probably once we get them on board, come back to you all, and they have a great flow that they go through they'll kind of expand on this schedule and talk to you as well, I would assume, about whether or not you want to have a search committee involved. One of the really tricky components of this search process is that almost everything has to be done in the public if the entire council does it or if 3 or more members do it. And so start kind of thinking about, like, do you want to see 25 resumes and go through them in a council meeting? Probably not. So we can have a search committee, and that can probably involve GMP, maybe staff, maybe some council members, to narrow that list down. And it's really just an efficiency thing. And then we'll ask you, like, how many people do you want to interview? And I think 3 or 4 was on the recommendation. That may or may not be the right number for you. You may say, we only want to see 2 or we want to see 6. But on the other side of things, for these candidates, once everything is public, like once their name is public, that's also a consideration for them. And so if it's too early in the process, you will have some candidates drop out. So you don't want to be having too many names in front of the council in a public meeting. So it's all sort of like a juggling game, and they'll, with Scott and I, will walk you through that. But those are some of the sort of upcoming decisions to make.
Any questions from council, discussion?
Well, if we have a search committee and there's just 2 council members, it wouldn't be a public meeting then. So that would be something that we could have as a, I would like, the search group go with maybe the mayor and mayor pro tem, because they're the ones that kind of work with the town manager the most to go through the larger list until we get down to the point where we have to do a public approval of the last 3 or 4 people. Does that sound right?
Yep, and that you can also just review the last one
And,
person.
you
So
know,
it's
if we get down to the
there's-
3 or 4, and if they're not anybody the whole council agrees on, we could start the process again.
exactly, yeah.
Interview more people.
Exactly.
Other questions? Scott, any more concerns?
No, and again, we can talk more about, a committee, and whether, as has been suggested, it's just a kind of a small, or whether you want to involve other town staff, in that or not. We've, in the past, I think we've done a mix. And it's always nice to, I think, include, certain key staff people, I think, and it does not have to be me. It can be whoever you choose. So, but again, I would, I think getting, the consultant on board is the first big step, and then they can kind of help guide us on what the process will look like and what the dates will be and all that kind of stuff. So. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Scott. We'll move on to agenda item 3, budget discussion, philosophical questions. Carrie McDonald, we'll turn that over to you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So we're going to start today. I have a lot on the agenda. I do have a cold, so I'm going to work real hard to try to not cough at you guys all night. But the first thing I wanted to go through tonight was the philosophical questions that we posed on July 21st and see if we could get to some answers on these before our retreat. If you decide that the budget retreat is the way you want to actually address some of these, that works too. But for right now, I'd like to try to get us on these philosophical questions. So if we could, Mr. Mayor, if it's all right, if we could just start with the first one and see if we can get some consensus from the group. So as we discussed before on the 21st, one of my concerns was the fact that the marina revenues and expenditures are now in the general fund, and they've been used to shore up the general fund, because as we know, the general fund is actually not balanced. I believe, and I would recommend to you, that we move the revenues that exceed expenses that are directly related to the marina that when there's that profit, so to speak, that we actually move that to the capital fund on a regular basis annually. So I'd like some thoughts around that, questions you may have about that.
So Carrie, you and I talked about this earlier, but I'd like to hear from members.
Well, it's nice that we put money into the capital fund from the marina profits, but since also, besides the profits, we also have to pay salaries and things like that out of the general fund. Would it be better to be splitting some of the profits into general and some of the profits in the capital, or you think the capital needs it more than the general fund?
Well, the salaries for the marina are already in that number, so they've already been taken out before we get to the profit amount. So I think from that perspective, they're already included in the general fund. So I wouldn't hold back for that. This year, we're looking at right now at 143,000. It's not a significant amount of money, but capital does pay for marina capital projects. So if you held some back, some percentage back in the general fund, it would be to pay for other salaries or other expenses not related to the marina.
The salary is also included in the profit or of the marina, or not in the profit of the marina, so it would
Right,
be-
it's their revenues minus all of their expenses, operational, including salaries. So it's that difference is what we would transfer to the capital fund.
That would make sense to put all in capital. And unless there's other projects can probably would be under expenditures anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you left it in the general fund, you're basically going to use it just to shore up the general fund.
Okay.
So my thoughts were, I actually lean towards keeping it in the general fund and kind of all for one for all type thing. I do think the general fund, I think the capital fund is pretty, strong. And so my thought was to put it in the general fund, maybe use it to help build the needed reserve that we want to increase. So my thought was, I thought capital was strong enough that I would rather, Carrie knows I've said this before, protect the general fund, because I think it is the major fund that's most important.
Okay.
Linda?
How, I'm kind of torn on it. How do you, if you don't put it in the general fund or keep it in the general fund, how do you balance the general fund? Is that by just pulling other projects off?
Well, I'm transferring it out, so it's already being used to balance the general fund. Because I'm doing it as a transfer. So from a cash basis, it's just less cash that's available in the general fund. But it is balanced. It is helping to balance because the revenues are in there and the expenses are in there. And if there's an increase in revenues, it is helping to balance the general fund. Because we're not moving the money until after we get beyond the revenues and expenses. We're not moving it till the end. So it's really just a cash impact. Does that make sense, Linda?
It does. And then like I said, with me being torn and please correct me if I'm not thinking the right way, because this is the challenge. The capital fund with the, for the marina, though, it seems to me that there's always something, there's always something to do, I think, at the marina.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm looking at it, maybe that I shouldn't look at it that way, since you say they pull out their expenses, and to maybe, building a little cushion in there for something that could come unexpectedly and be able to do it and not have to worry about it.
But
Does
you're
that make
saying
sense?
building a cushion in the general fund for the marina?
No, the capital fund.
Oh, in the
To
capital
ca-
fund,
or-
yeah. Yeah,
Then move it to the capital fund, say something unexpected happened.
right.
And, we needed some more funds in there. So that's why sometimes for me, I was kind of thinking the capital fund, moving it to the capital fund would make sense. Just, it seems like, we're dealing with everything from Mother Nature to just, odd things that to have something in there to help with something unexpected would be good.
Well, and they have, like this year, I believe they have about $300,000 in capital, and that's really just basic capital. I mean, it's they need to replace rental boats every single year. Now, obviously, we can't always do it because money isn't always available, but rental boats need to be replaced and equipment needs to be replaced and vehicles, and we have to rent a crane and for taking boats in and out, and there's a lot of expenses, capital expenses that happen every year. So this money would just go to help pay for that.
If it was transferred to the capital fund?
Correct. Because those costs, like the rental boats and the crane rental, major dock improvements, those all run through the capital fund. They don't run through the general fund. So there are items in the 5-year capital. There's quite a bit in the 5-year capital for the marina that is now just being paid out of sales tax dollars.
And if it stays in the general, helps out everybody.
If it stays in the general, I mean, it's just more cash in the general fund.
I'm still torn on it, but
Okay, that's fine.
maybe we
It's a
can
tough
see what
one.
others have to say.
I would say we do what's best for our budget next year. I mean, where is it needed the most?
So would you say, Rachel, on a year-to-year basis, make the decision?
Oh, you're asking like ongoing.
Yeah,
That's the philosophical question.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just trying to come up with a way to decide how that is going to happen every year. But there is the option. I mean, we do have the capability to change that each year.
Well, if it's, I would say that would be the best way to go about it because we don't know, there's changing conditions, changing things, events.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we could decide every year, I would
Mhm.
say that would probably be the best way to go about it, and whatever works, wherever it's needed, we look at we look at it year by year. So like, for instance, for 2027, where is it needed the most?
Okay. Yeah, and this is where Barb is absolutely correct because she knows this budget probably as well as I do. The general fund needs more. So probably keeping it in the general fund, if that was the approach we took, where we could look at it on an annual basis, which is not a bad thought. It wasn't one of my options, but it's not a bad thought. Because we can transfer money anytime with your approval. So
We don't know.
that is an option.
Would be my vote.
Okay, thank you.
Anna?
I think my concern comes from long-term financial sustainability, and I don't think that using extra funds for ongoing expenses is really that sustainable. I think if we were going to use it in the general fund, maybe for one-time options, but because that number fluctuates from year to year, it's really not anything we can count on. I mean, this year it seems, it's down because of weather conditions. And so to be shoring up the general fund with something that is so it's just such an unknown, to me seems a little reckless on just long-term financial sustainability. And so I kind of looked at it and I was like, I mean, if there's a hybrid model, kind of like maybe doing a significant portion to capital for the capital needs. And then, if there's one-time items in the general fund, but it's not a number that it's never a number that we can count on in the general fund. So to pass a budget based on something that we don't know that number, I think it feels risky to me.
Okay.
Well,
Well, it doesn't feel risky to me. Just go back the other direction, just to keep it going back and forth. I'd say let's put it in the general fund.
so Carrie, we had a long discussion trying to get away from going fund to fund over extended periods of time, uh, leads to transferring of monies that, in a down economic climate is not super healthy. I'm in favor of supporting the capital fund so that the marina, it's easier for them to access. It's my understanding, once it goes into the general fund, it's more complicated to give back to them.
I'm give back to who? To the marina?
To the marina.
Yeah, I mean, once it goes in the balance of the general fund, it's in the balance. It's not a
So-
set aside for any purpose. I think that's what you're
Right.
referring to.
Right, so I think it's really important in our economic climate to try and support the main assets that are contributing to the town, and leaving it in a capital fund gives the marina a chance to make improvements, which is going to contribute back to the town. So that's just my thought.
I would say we're quite split. I just wrote everyone's comments down and it looks like, we're quite split. What do you all think of Rachel's suggestion, looking at it year by year? And us making the call for this year? Now, and right now I have it going to the capital fund, but if we need it back in the general fund, we can always pull it back or not do the transfer. What do you all think for right now of moving it forward with Rachel's suggestion of actually looking at it year to year? And having your finance staff give you that recommendation?
How does everyone feel about for this year adopting that scenario?
Seems pretty easy to stay on top of it that way.
Anyone object? Okay, so we got that one covered.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, the next one is the transfer of money. And we talked about this quite a bit on July 21st, but there was $211,000 that was being transferred from the parking fund into the general fund, and it was really just sent there to shore up the general fund from a cash basis, which the general fund doesn't really need cash. They need revenues to cover their expenses. So I am suggesting that one, that probably should not happen. And two, that the general fund doesn't need cash. They needed the revenue side. So I'm suggesting that we try not to do a bunch of transfers. They don't really impact the ability to balance a budget because they come after revenues over expenditures. So they come after the fact. And I would say that if we're transferring money out of the parking fund, so the parking fund money, just so we understand, the parking fund money is set up as in two buckets. One bucket is the parking in lieu of fee that has to be used for parking and has to be returned to the person who paid the parking in lieu of fee if it's not spent in a certain period of time, I believe 10 years. That's one part of the parking fund. The other part is the overnight parking fees that are being assessed, which is where the majority of the money in that fund comes from. And those fees can be spent. There's no law, there's no ordinance that requires how we spend that money. Although probably from a transparency standpoint, we would want to say that we're using it for streets or parking or, something that benefits the community that way. So there's about $400,000 in there. I believe staff is going to bring forward a project. But if council would like to consider an option, it would be to, if we're not going to spend that parking fund money, rather than transfer it, I would suggest that we move forward with putting those fees in a different fund and not having those overnight parking fees in a parking fund if that's not going to be the use of them. Let's put them in the capital fund where they could be used for capital, or put them in the streets fund where they could be used for streets, or put them in the general fund where they could be used for parking lot maintenance, snow removal, that sort of thing. So I think there's actually a few options for the parking fund itself. Don't have to answer that question tonight, but I do think if you guys are okay, that we should try to step back from doing so many transfers to shore up other funds.
So you recommend leaving it in the parking fund for the time being?
Mhm. Yeah, and then if we find projects that can go there that are parking related of some sort or related to the business community, or events or something that, you know, benefits where that money came from, the reason why we're charging for that money is for parking lots. So if we have a project to go there, that's great. Then we could take it out of that fund. $400,000 isn't gonna get us much of a project.
Carrie, I had one thought on that was, I was reading, actually Denver's been talking about their parking fund. So it was in the Denver Post, but they're using theirs for, pedestrian safety, new charging station costs, bicycles, support and sidewalks. Is that something that and parking signage, is that something that we could do as well?
Yeah, we have no specific rules on the overnight parking, but see, to me, those are all a good tie to parking. Especially the pedestrian friendly, making it comfortable and easy for people to get from our parking lots to our event, or parking lots to our marina, or parking lots to the downtown area or whatever. I think that makes a lot of sense, Barb.
Well, I borrowed it from them.
Well,
So
good
we
job
would-
finding it.
Gary, so we would use the parking in lieu of funds first, and then anything else would be more usable if we needed it.
Yeah, I'd want to go back, Ben, and see what parking in lieu of funds are still in there. There may not be any left. But I'll go back and do some research on that and see if I can figure that out. Those would have to stay in the parking fund, and that parking fund needs to stay in existence because you still have the parking in lieu of fee. That's why I asked that question on the 21st. And whatever that money would have to stay in there. But everything else could be used for these type of purposes, or whatever council deemed necessary to use those parking fees for. So those parking fees could go into a different fund, not the parking in lieu of, but the parking fees.
Yeah, but if we don't spend the parking in lieu of for parking, then it has to be returned.
Yeah, and I'm not going to guarantee this because I haven't been there for a few years, but I believe the parking in lieu of fees are gone. I believe they were gone when I was there, and I don't believe any have been collected since. So I think we're fine there. We just have to keep the fund open in the event that you do collect a parking in lieu of fee. And then the time would start. When we collected the last parking in lieu of fee was a long time ago. And Ben, I don't, if you remember, we did the parking lot on Buffalo Street. The street parking on Buffalo Street. That's when we did that diagonal parking. Now it's since been improved since then, but that's what we did with that parking in lieu of money. I don't believe there's any more. I will double check and make sure.
They reduced the amount of money that went into the parking in lieu of funds after I was off of council, so.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure where it is today, except that I think it still exists.
Linda? Any comments?
No, not at the moment.
Rachel?
I mean, just whatever makes sense, I
Mhm.
guess. You're the expert.
Anna?
Well, I'm trying to get some of this set up for the next finance director, so they have some, some thoughts on how this moves forward, and they'll be able to watch this video and see kind of what your thoughts were. And so I think this is good information for them.
Comfortable with Carrie's suggestion. That one plus the previous.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. It'd be good to get rid of the parking in lieu of fund. But that's good for now.
I'm
Okay,
on the same. I agree also.
okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, the next one is the balanced budget. And I honestly think that we've already been through this enough that I know the direction you guys want to go, but let's just reconfirm. So when we talked on the 21st, we talked about the fact that when you use so balanced budget means that your current revenues in your operational funds, so the general fund, the water operating, and the sewer operating, that those revenues that you collect currently have to cover your current expenditures for that year. If you continually use your beginning fund balance, you're going to run out of money. But in times where you need to use your beginning fund balance, our financial policies do allow that. And quite frankly, we have to do that this year. There's just no way around it. We're $500,000 revenues under expenditures. So we're going to need to use our beginning fund balance. And I think from our discussion on the 21st, and Rachel, I understand you weren't there, so if you have comments, I'd love to hear them. But I think the rest of you understood and agree that we need to do that for this year, and hopefully we won't have to do that in 27. So we'd be taking part of our beginning fund balance and using it, rolling it into a current revenue situation so that current revenues covered current expenses. It's really an accounting function. It's the same impact to the cash at the end of the year. There's no difference. It's just an accounting function so that we can show that our budget is balanced, which is what we need to be doing. Budgets need to be balanced. Now, they should be approved as balanced. Unfortunately, we can't do that this year. We will do it next year. It's one way or another.
Or any
Does that make
comments
sense?
contrary to that, or can we all just agree?
That was the direction we had been leaning to also.
Okay,
Great. Okay. So the water fund is our next one. I'm not sure we can solve this tonight, and I think I have the answer. I think I know which direction you guys want to go, but we will have to use beginning fund balance to shore it up. Unfortunately, there's not much cash left. And as we watch, so right now, the water fund, the water operating side is $300,000 revenues under expenses. And this is because the budget was shown with $2 million in tap fees, which don't exist. There are not $2 million in tap fees coming in. So the funds, as you approved them last year, look like the funds were in great shape, but they're not. So we're $300,000 revenues under expenditures, and there's only $400,000 cash left in the fund. So it's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight. And as we watch the numbers, we just got the July readings for the water meters, and we'll know tomorrow where that is compared to last year. But if we continue to see drops in our volume charge, the fund will be in worse shape, and we may end up having to borrow from the sewer fund. The sewer fund can handle a loan. There would be interest, there would be a time frame, there would be payments made. But that is a potential, and I'm not sure how Catherine would want to handle that. We would work with her on what kind of documentation we would need and what kind of approval. We're working hard not to have that happen, but I can't guarantee it right now that it won't have to happen. So that is an option, if council would be willing to give us the authority to move forward if we decide at some point that we need to do that. And that's really what we're looking for on this. There's really no other option.
That's what we do. If there's
That's
no
what we
other
do,
option,
yeah.
that's what we do.
Well, it's a catch-22 because we want the volume down because of the water shortage.
Correct.
but-
Correct.
So I agree. I don't think there's anything else really an
But-
option.
And we're taking, excuse me, we're taking a look, and Carrie, we'll talk about this, but we're looking at rates for next year to recapture the revenue that was lost from the fee schedule mistake that happened.
and you had spoken about that a meeting or two ago.
Correct.
So I guess we have to move forward unless there's other ideas.
I had a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Carrie, are either of those funds or both of them enterprise funds?
They're all
Okay.
enterprise funds. So the water fund, Catherine, the water fund has a water operating and a water plant investment fund. But legally, for audit purposes, they become one fund. So we can combine them back into one fund. It doesn't help much because there's no money between the two of them. But, and then on the sewer side, there's a sewer operating and a sewer plan investment. Again, they combine for audit purposes. We do show them separate for budget purposes. If down the road council wanted to consider combining them, we could do that. It doesn't help us much with it doesn't really help with our situation in the water fund because I'm already combining all the cash. And there's
So
just not
the
enough money
ta-
there.
The tap fees that were never there, that's kind of a one-time thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not quite sure where the $2 million in tap fees came from or why they were included in the budget, but in talking with planning and engineering and with Scott, there's no project to support that. So we took them out, but that has a huge impact. That had the largest impact on our 26 budget. That's a lot of money and revenue that we're not going to collect.
So
And then the
council-
fees being incorrect did not help.
With the advantage of an enterprise fund is that you can issue revenue bonds. That's one advantage of it without voter authorization. So if you have a large capital project, you need a new water tank or something like that, right? Like you can issue revenue bonds and support them through user fees. The option number 2, and I don't know the exact numbers, Carrie probably does, but an enterprise is limited to getting no more than 10% of their revenue from governmental sources. So no more than 10% of those funds for them to remain enterprise funds can come from the town's general property taxes or from state funding. So that's just something to think about if that is a law, and I don't know if that you have capital projects or that's even on the scope. It is, once you lose an enterprise fund status, it is a little bit hard to go back for bonding purposes. So that's just kind of a long-term strategy to keep in mind as you look at the options.
Yeah, and so Catherine, I guess one of the thoughts I had was to borrow from the sewer fund because it's also an enterprise fund. And just do it as a loan from sewer to water. What is your thought on that?
And that may work. I'd have to look at some of the case law
Okay.
around paper enterprises. I think it's a great creative solution. I've not seen it done before, so I'd have to confirm if it would hold up.
Okay.
Plus, Scott, you had mentioned that some of this is going to get recovered in 27 with the billing. Utility.
Correct. We're going to look at that.
Is this more of a short-term
I hope so.
problem
Yeah.
that in 27 will correct itself?
It's still going to be really tight in 27 because we're really going to just kind of dig ourselves out of the hole. So I think next year is going to be pretty flat for water.
And if it was in a 2-year scenario, would be more back to normal?
Correct. I think so.
So then if
Harry, would you disagree?
I would say, I think 3 to 5 years to say back to normal. I think 2 years we've dug ourselves out of the hole.
so
I do think in 2 years we can dig ourselves out of the hole, but there's going to have to be limited capital projects. We've got to save some money. We're going to have to get back on track. And
And
if
keep
the
in
drought
mind-
continues, all bets are off.
So that's the other issue on top of the fee issue and the tap fee issue. We have a drought and people are using less water, about 20% less water volume wise. So, provided we have, we have a wet winter, revenues could be back where they need to be next year.
So if
Correct.
the sewer fund has the ability to loan and could get a benefit back from it, and in a few years, then it's recovered, problem solved. If it's not solved, you can always default to bonds or other methods.
We could, but I think, then I think I think we need to go back at that point and really examine the 5-year rate study and re-examine revenues compared to expenses for that utility and see if we need to reevaluate that.
I did have a question on that, the rate study is because they just did it. If we had to have them redo it shortly, would we get a break in the price on it?
I don't know about that. I doubt it.
Oh, okay. I just
But if
wondered.
they're only looking at a piece of it, because keep in mind, you're talking about
Yeah.
4 different pieces.
Mhm.
And so if they're looking at the, just the water operating, then the limited scope is, I think there would be less expense to do that. But give Carrie and I some more time to evaluate and see what increases look like for next year. What does recovery look like to sort of get us back to where we need to be? And then we can have a conversation on whether we need to reevaluate a portion of the 5-year rate study.
So we'll let a little more research on your part, come back and discuss it
Sure.
and defer for now on item 5.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that okay, Carrie?
Yeah, that works great. It's, Scott and I did some work on the water fund early or late last week, and we're continuing to work on it. It's gonna just be a work in progress, and we're gonna do the best we can to get it back in budget, or back in balanced. But it's gonna be a tough year. So we continue to work on it. So I think that works great, Mr. Mayor. So the last one is the budget booklet itself, and whether, I think what it comes down to is that I think we have 2 options. One, we could take, so we're going to talk about the amendments to the budget next, and all of the supplemental appropriations that you're getting ready to consider for tonight's meeting. We could take that document, the resolution with all of the spreadsheets, and we could put that on the website as the new revised 2026 budget for the public, and probably would give them enough information. What they've lost is all the narrative, because the narrative no longer exists, but that would give them the numbers. So that's one option. Probably takes the least amount of staff time. I think probably from a transparent public, for the public, it's all the numbers, it's all the funds. So I think it has the information they're looking for. Or we can take the budget booklet that exists right now on the website, and we could pop in the new spreadsheets, update the charts, update the narrative, and make things right. And then the other thing is, it was brought to my attention that the 2026 budget booklet is almost impossible to read. The print is so small. Some of it you can't read at all. Some of it is just very hard to read. You have to have a huge magnifying glass. So we could redo the whole budget booklet. It will take time, and it is August. And it will take some time to get it done. So I'm looking to council, whichever way you would like to go. I'm still available. I can help if you choose to do the budget booklet. We can certainly do a 1-pager if we choose just to put the resolution up there with the amended budget, which is amends every single budget. We could put a narrative up there so that they understand what this is and why it's been done, and have some dialogue up there, and maybe contact someone if they have questions. We could put that up on the website, or we can redo the whole thing for the budget booklet. So I'm looking for which way council is leaning. And this is one I don't know which way you're leaning.
Well, I like option A, and then for 27, then continue with a more formal approach, but, I'd like to hear everybody.
I agree.
Same here. I like the A.
Linda,
Agree.
Rachel,
He's good.
Shannon,
He's good. Okay.
Kyle? Okay, option A.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts and your good dialogue on this. We'll have more. I have more questions for you, but we'll do those at the retreat. So that was a great
Thank you
start.
so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, Carrie, for a great presentation. We'll move on to item 4, the amphitheater and concerts financial review.
Sorry, Mayor, we do have more on 3. We need to
Okay.
talk about, I just want to see if you guys have any questions. I am presenting the amended budget and the supplemental appropriation, so they are on there on this work session as well, in case you had questions you wanted to talk about before we get to the meeting. If there was anything further, we did do a
Oh.
different format than I had originally talked to you guys about. After talking with Catherine and Doug, it was determined that this resolution where we amended every budget and attached those budgets as an amendment, and then just approve the supplemental appropriations for 2026 for those expenditures that were over and above what was approved prior. So if they went down, they're not in there, but if they went, but as a whole, if the general fund had additional supplementals, then I'm asking you to approve those. And then we're asking you to approve all of the amendments as we discussed on the July 21st. And I've made no changes to them since July 21st.
Any thoughts? Or should we move forward?
I think we should move forward.
Barb,
I think we should move forward, yeah.
Linda,
Agree.
Rachel, Shannon, Kyle? Let's move forward.
Well, thank you very much.
Do we need to review 3.3 at all, or in the?
No, because that's with it. So that's, yeah, if you guys are good with moving forward, we can move on to 4 now.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to agenda item 4, the amphitheater concerts 2025 financial review.
So is Kale there?
Oh, yeah, he's here.
He was gonna start this.
We do an amphitheater.
Uh,
We do an amphitheater.
We're doing amphitheater.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought we were doing Keystone. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ron,
Okay. So when I first was asked to come back and help, one of the questions I got from some council members was, where are we at with the amphitheater and the concerts and getting some good numbers on paper to help council make good decisions? I think that's the key to what we've been doing all along, is trying to get good information out there so we can make good decisions. So what I tried to do was I took in working with Jesse and the team, we took the events charges, the events revenues and expenses from 2025, and I put them into a spreadsheet. So the beginning, I'm going to go through this kind of page by page just to kind of give you a general recap of what they mean, and then I'm happy to answer questions. So the first page of the spreadsheet goes through the concert revenues and concert expenditures that are directly in the budget, that are directly related to providing concerts at the amphitheater, whether that's paid or unpaid, doesn't matter. So those are all the costs that I've broken out for you, and it shows a gross profit of $913,000. Understand that that number is going to probably go up and down based on number of concerts and what happens in a year. Page 2 then is some revenues and expenditures that you may want to consider that are related to the concerts, but are maybe a little harder to define and have not been put into the amphitheater concerts category. So we kind of went through all the scenarios of what could be some numbers. So the sales tax and lodging tax are revenues that we may consider to be revenues from doing concerts, because based on a guest survey that they did in 2024, I believe it was done, they gave us a number from that guest survey of how much people spend, and we assumed that the spending was 50% in Dillon and 50% in other areas. So we came up with that based on that spending, what the sales tax and the lodging tax would be. Now on the lodging tax, because I don't have a breakdown of how much is hotels versus short-term rentals, so I just used the 6%. So I feel like those numbers are probably a little conservative, but definitely hard to measure. Then the bottom one is sales tax on food and beverage, merchandise and concessions. That's absolutely a number that we know we pay in sales tax to the town, from the town to the town for concerts. And then the expenditures are those items, the ones in yellow, everything in yellow is things that we've estimated because we've not tracked them in 2025. But we think they're a good estimate or the start of an estimate to get us to a number where we can say how well the amphitheater is doing. And it includes office rent. I did use amphitheater facility costs. Those are directly from our budget in our buildings and parks budget. Depreciation is actually directly from the audit, depreciation on the capital projects. And then, of course, our debt payment, which comes out to our net profit. If you use all of those revenues and expenses, that's the net profit. And then if you go to the third page, it just shows you all the capital. One of the things that I had talked to a council member about is getting, how much did the marina really, or did the amphitheater really cost us? It was $10 million back in 2018 when we built that. I went before a few committees and we got about $926,000 in grant money. We got some donations from the public. We did our lease that we're paying the debt on, and then the rest all came from sales tax within the capital fund. And then since 2018, here's all the costs that we've incurred and where we've paid for them from. Another $3 million. And then the last page shows you the amphitheater debt. How much we're paying now, what the interest rate is, and what it goes to. So one of the things we've heard, or I've heard from you guys, is that there's a message out that there's a big balloon payment coming. There is not a big balloon payment coming. In 2030, the payment goes from $315,000 to $394,000. And in the last 6 years, it goes up to $477,000. So it does increase, but it is certainly not a big balloon payment. So I hope that helps. I guess what I would say before I take a bunch of questions is this is a good start at looking at our 2025 numbers and using this as a template as we move forward for 2026 and beyond, and having a way to say, what is the amphitheater doing for us? The original intent of the amphitheater was not to make money or be a profit center. If that's changed, great. If it's not, great. But I think the bottom line is the public, council, and staff should all know kind of where it sits. Is this exact? No. There are estimates involved. There may be some other expenses that we haven't considered. I know that there's some concern for maybe some of the percentages that were used. I think this is a good start. It's a draft. It's a work in progress. And it's a way for us to move forward in 2026 with getting better numbers, tracking better numbers, and being able to provide better information and making sure that we know what the amphitheater and the town concert lineup is doing for the town. So with that, I turn it over to questions, comments, concerns, something more you'd like?
No concerns.
Carrie and I talked about this earlier today, so I like the fact that it's kind of a work in progress. It's a draft. There's the split on the general events and concert events, I think needs to be looked at a little more thoroughly. It just doesn't feel right to me as far as how much energy I see everyone putting into the concerts. So I think, but I like the fact that at least we're starting, and so thank you for going at, taking a look at it and just putting all the information out. Thank you, Carrie.
Absolutely. And what Barb's referring to is the payroll from the general event side to the concert side. We're using a 40% number for the full-time. There's 5 full-time staff. 1 gets paid out of marketing, 4 get paid out of events. And using 40% of those 5. going to town concerts. And that's something that, it's one of those things, just like with the sales and lodging tax that we talked about. It's one of those things that is probably up for debate. And so I think as we move forward, finding a better way to make sure we're allocating those correctly is something we should be working on.
Thank you for all your time on this. This is, appreciate it.
I hope it's helpful.
Rachel? Ken?
Thank you, Carrie.
Kyle?
Just that in our Dillon blog, it said we still had free concerts on Fridays and Saturdays, but it hadn't been updated since 2017. I'll show you.
Is it on our website?
Carrie, I like the template idea of something. Now we have something to go forward with that's a standard. We can fine tune it if we need it, but it'll start giving us good numbers. I mean, it is one of our better assets, and in a declining tax environment, we need to know exactly where our money is. I do
Yep.
appreciate this
Good,
report and our
good.
discussion earlier.
Okay. Well, if no other questions, we can move on to Keystone.
Right, item 5, agenda item 5, Dillon Keystone Police Department 2025 financial review.
Obviously, as you know, just recently kind of did the 1-year look at what the agreement looks like. Like I said, when I presented that, we learned a lot. We're going to take a lot of those lessons as we move forward. Some of the stuff that Carrie's going to talk through as she goes through the numbers of, you know, following what the numbers say and listen to the story that they tell. As many of us knew that were at the table in the beginning, and as I look around the room, there's not very many people that were here, which isn't a bad thing. It's just different. Coming together with a cooperative agreement like that took a lot of work. There's a lot of motivation with the same goal at the end of the day. You know, providing the best public safety that we can for both towns, being accountable and saying and doing what we say we do. But there is going to be some tweaks. There's, like I said, some of the learning points that we have. Talking with many people of how to make it better now. Obviously, you know, it's no secret of what the long-term layout can look like and should. Staffing, equipment, and certain things like that. But some really basic amendments as we go to define really who's paying what. And I think there's some, after talking with Carrie and others, I think there's some things that we can shoot for to actually clean it up more short term. So, like I said, some of the things, like if you look in our, in just the general as it is, there are certain items that are in there. Some of those can get mirrored into their budget. Because there's some items that aren't necessarily in the police department, but they're in the general, like hazmat would be one of them, animal control. There's certain functionality and stuff that's in the general that's not in the police budget specifically. So taking a look at those, obviously them coming together and having their own court agreement, what that looks like, really taking a moment of pause and kind of trying to clean it up so it's either easier on both sides. Like I said, there's quite a few lessons learned. Carrie, do you want to go through the numbers of that?
Sure, let me unmute myself so I don't cough in your face again. All right, so if we go to the second page, Ben, I don't know, are you putting it up on the screen? If we go to the second page of the memo, there's a spreadsheet attached that has all the expenditures. So what I did was I took a look at what was allocated to Keystone versus what the total or the expenses, the difference, that would then be allocated to Dillon. So took Keystone first, took Dillon, said, okay, here's our total. So the one thing that I think when you guys first looked at 2025 estimates is that you were told, I believe, that the budget was $4.2 million, or the estimates for 2025 are 4.2 million, which then Keystone was paying $1 million. That didn't make sense. So it's actually 3.3 million, of which Keystone's paying 744. So it's about 22% of the budget. If you keep going down, I took out the comm center and our court fees because as Cale just alluded to, those are really costs that are ours and not Keystone's. They will be paying their own costs associated with those two functions. So they should not be paying our costs. So if you take them out, then they're actually paying 25.11% of our budget in 2025. Now, then you add the capital, which is the next section, and you look at Keystone paid $163,000 of capital, which was 24%. For a total, they paid 22.5. If you take out the comm center and court fees, they actually ended up paying 25%. And guess what? I guess what I would mention to you is that, remember, we were preparing for the Keystone, providing services in Keystone from January to June 1st, but we actually started providing service for them in June 1st. So, so just keep that in mind, that it was not a whole year, as it will be in 2026. And I do think that matters. I know the agreement says up to 33% is what they will pay. We believed at one point, I believe that's where the number came from. The $1 million was 33%. They are not paying 33%. I do believe it says up to. And I do think as we move forward, there are things that we need to ensure are being captured. I did speak with Barb earlier today, and she brought up some good points about liability insurance and vehicle insurance and how those are being allocated. I will tell you that workers' comp is allocated to Keystone, as well as payroll for salaries for admin costs associated with paying bills, providing payroll, doing the billing, those people and the HR, those payroll amounts are actually, a portion of those payroll amounts are actually allocated to Keystone. So that's what we're looking at. Again, just like with the events, this is a template to use as we move forward. I think certainly, as Cale mentioned, we need to be looking at an amendment, and I would really like to see, I think that Catherine or Doug need to start working with Cale and maybe the Keystone. They're also going to get this presentation, I believe, next week. We need to start working on an amendment to the agreement so that this is very lined out and there's no more second guessing who's paying for what. And I think we're all in agreement on making sure that happens. It can just be an amendment. I think the overall arching agreement probably still works. It's really clarifying the expenses as we move forward. I have already taken the 2026 budget and they're paying 1.4 million this year. I've already put that into this spreadsheet as we look to 2024, and they're paying a little over 30% when we look at those numbers. So I think as we move forward, again, this is a work in progress. We do think that when we actually came down to the total numbers, that Keystone paid us $1,016,000 and their costs were probably $907,000. So there was an overage of $108,000, which we will deal with in 2026 with Keystone. And then as we move forward in 2026, I think using this document as a way to track this and using this as our budget document for 2027 will be important. And I think it's a great tool for the next finance director to use as they move forward.
I would just add to, not only is it a great tool for that, but other things that we're already looking at is obviously going back to ClearGov, using things that we use for planning purposes, more long-term. And one thing I would point out too is, the monetary figure correlates very nicely with the calls for service and how they're broke down. As they're providing their report, the percentages are very close. And like I said, it is a work in progress, because I think what you're going to see is there's a lot of things that go into both of the communities at different times, like construction projects, can affect certain things, lack of snow, like so many other things that affect the economy and stuff also affect our business. So, right now, as it is, like Dillon is incredibly busy in the summertime. Keystone's very busy too, but not like they are in the winter, where Dillon's not as busy. So is that fit going to be forever? No, because I think there's going to be changes in both towns that are going to even certain things out, I think. But I just wanted to point out that the calls for service are proportional to the money that they're paying, the service that we're providing. And our common goal is obviously to provide the best service we can for both towns. So, Carrie, did you have anything to add after that? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off at all. I don't think so. I guess I would turn it over to council for questions, comments, and thoughts about the process and what we've done here and what we can look at moving forward if there's something different you'd like to see.
So I had a couple questions. We had talked earlier. So on the Dillon side of it represents the 1-year expenses. On the Keystone side of it represents the 7-month expenses. But the contract originally assumed it was going to be January, but didn't go online till June. Is that correct?
Well, the
So that's
contract was
not
actually
entirely-
signed, the contract was signed in February. But we did go online, we started providing service June 1st, right, Kale?
So
That's factual in there, but there was some expenditures from that
Yes.
February, June. Staff members, onboarding. So there was a lot going on before that. So
Yep.
when we use the June 1st part, it's that we didn't take over operational services like boots on the ground until the first of that. So,
Okay.
and I know that one question also got asked that there was some questionable expense on their side of that, but they were still under contract and paying for other services. So there was no lag in who was doing what, which was very strategic, because you have to have service with no break in the service. So that's why that is.
So I'm just concerned that the percentage falls in line with the yearly service. So if the cap was 33 1/3 and you're already at 25, putting another 5 months in there, it seemed if they would have had another 5 months, the cap might have been 40% or so. So just to maybe, when it's reviewed, see whether that's appropriate,
Carrie, did
whether
you,
the 33 1/3 is appropriate.
Carrie, did you say for this year, we're tracking close to 30%?
Yeah, just over 30% is what we're tracking.
So we're, for 26, we've got, are much closer to the 33%.
Right.
They're
but
paying a
maybe
lot more
it's
too. They're
all
paying
40.
1.4 million.
I'm just suggesting maybe we just make sure we're covered there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other comments?
Nope.
Or
Mine was, I just wanted the community in particular to know that it was startup and 7 months of patrol. So it's a little different. It's not a full year as far
Correct.
as numbers. And I think everybody has to keep that in mind. And then I like the fact the calls for service, that was one of the questions, is tracking where you thought it might be. And Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, well, it's not just that. I got a question from my neighbor. Are they paying their fair share? And that seems to be just a question, are they paying their fair share? We want it to be fair for everybody. And I think Keystone wants that too. So I don't think there's an issue there. It's just, can we, like you said, it's a work in progress. Can we just make sure that we're covering our costs? So
Yep.
I think that,
Yep.
just, and I think both entities want that to happen.
Okay.
So, what's the other thing? Oh, and I think the contract says up to 33%, so it isn't, it's a straight 33, not 33 and a third. And I don't want to be picky, but I'm saying that is some money. Another third is additional, it's some money. So it's just it is a flat 33, I think, right, Carrie?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, or Kale. All right, thank
And
you.
that's
Thank
what we
you.
can look
Thank
at when we
you.
do the amendments.
I have a question. This was startup. Was there a lot of capital that was put out this year that won't be carried on to to 2026?
The capital's actually running fairly consistent, Ben. Keystone paid for 163,000, and this year, 2026, I believe it's like 240,000. So just kind of like we do our own budget, it's keeping it somewhat consistent.
Okay.
And I will say, like, looking into that, the ebb and the flow of that, our capital piece of that over the last 3 years has been really kind of wonky. And it has to do with the cars that we've talked about, that we ordered then in 22, carried over 2 budget years. You're going to see a lot more consistency, but there's always going to be pretty, right now, a patrol car that we're specking out of that ballpark is, call it 102,000. Right. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to see on the planning documents in the future are going to be adhering to the replacement schedule, which we need to get back on track a little bit. We have some cars that need to go. Clearly, we have new cars that are in the lineup, which is great. Our biggest expenditures, especially with capital, that's going to encompass probably the biggest piece of it is always the cars.
I understand.
So
that.
hopefully we can get on track like we've tried different vendors, builders, and trying to make it a lot more consistent because it really helps too with our replacement schedule. I think that the town, it's probably one thing that we're going to look at is actually increasing the mileage cap of what we're looking at because so much work and effort and money go into building a patrol car, trying to get the most out of it that we can instead of miling it out as fast as we can. Doesn't necessarily make sense. So you'll continue to see those fairly consistent numbers. Like I know the 1 year that we had the Bearcat expense that was in there, it was super high. The following year was not as high. Then the year after that, when all of the expenditures for the cars that we ended up getting was almost triple. So
Yeah, well, I understand that patrol cars have a whole different type of depreciation than a regular car.
yes, very much so.
Any other comments? Gail? Thank you so much. We'll move on to item 6, salary scale methodologies discussion.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Sean, I'm the HR manager here for the town. And I wanted to talk about conducting a salary survey. We haven't done one in a few years. Carrie did one in 2024. And on the back, you can see the list of towns that I wanted to look at to compare. I think they're pretty comparable to Dillon based on the type of revenue, cost of living, number of people who live there. And I just want to see if you guys have any suggestions, objections, anything like that.
Well, your thing there says Dillon has a population of 31,000.
Sorry, typo, 1,000.
No, the whole column shifted, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
you just
sorry
have
about
to- You just have to know you shifted
It-
down.
Shift it down, yeah.
I see.
Uh,
Yeah, I edited it last Friday, right before I left. I noticed that what I had originally,
Everything is
What was-
just shifted down and I just thought,
Yeah.
it-
thank you.
Yeah.
and it wasn't quite right. Yes.
Tahoe City does not have 31,000 people.
No.
And I originally included them because they have a marina that's pretty comparable in size, but in my discoveries so far, I found that they actually source out their marina to a private company. So I can't include them the way I wanted to. So if anybody, I've been talking to Craig, has any suggestions on another marina similar size, obviously we have Frisco here. I'm all ears for that.
That's an interesting question, actually. Yeah.
I've been
And
doing
Craig,
so much research on it and I
yeah.
struggle. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
unique marina that we have that's run by the town, which is a little rare for that size.
Does Grand Lake run their own marina?
Jane Grand Lake is on there, yes.
I have them on here. They're quite a bit smaller.
Yeah.
And I've already begun just reaching out to these municipalities and just collecting their public salary scales from 2026. And I've almost got all of them. I'm just missing one, but hopefully by the end of the week. And I'm starting to look through them.
There are a few small communities up in Wyoming that might have a marina.
Mhm.
You might check there. I know the marina is up there, but I don't know if they're owned by the town.
Yeah.
That's the-
Yeah, I was really hoping because Tahoe City was like the right size and revenue and all that, and I was
Towns
very
are
disappointed.
Smaller. They only have really 2 towns.
Mhm. I know Craig just mentioned to me maybe looking at Florida. There's a lot of lakes and stuff, so I'm gonna start looking more at that. But that's my biggest focus because all these other towns are very tourist driven, and a lot of them are ski towns or remote towns, and pretty comparable for the rest of our jobs. It's just the marina being the outlier.
I like the idea. And it's good to know where we stand and
Yep.
to be competitive.
Yeah, most municipalities tend to do either their own survey or get an outside organization to conduct it every 2 to 3 years or so. So we're right in the ballpark for that. And it gives us a good idea of how competitive we are with, not just within Summit County, but some of our other areas. Like I included Golden in there because, you know, some people, we have employees who commute back and forth between Denver, Golden, and here. So I think it's worth looking at.
Comments?
No, I mean, we used to do it every 3 years, but,
Mhm.
it's fine. I think we should do it because of the fluctuation in economy.
Yeah, especially with seasonal employees, and it's very competitive to make sure we're fully staffed for all of our seasonal departments, and being competitive with that it's very important, especially with the cost of living and yeah, just fighting for that pool of college students. And
Other council comments, questions?
It's good to me.
Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Sean.
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 7, staff reports. Interim Public Works Directors Report, Evan Dawson.
I like to stand, feel the breeze. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Presented my report for the night, just a few quick updates. Water levels are doing pretty good considering the situation we're in. Not great by any measure, but we're holding in there, and it's leveled out significantly. If you can see in that chart, we're still getting some peaks and troughs. The troughs are very, very slowly receding, but we're still able to make sufficient water, and in part thanks to the reduction in usage, even though that does have an impact on our water budget. Right now, if we didn't do a linear regression of the curve of those troughs, it does put us dipping below 2 sometimes towards the end of August, early September. However, if it's an exponential curve, which it usually kind of follows, it could prolong us a little later. And that's notwithstanding any monsoons. So if we get a decent rain cycle that helps recharge the aquifers, we're looking pretty good. This week, however, hot and dry. Town Park soccer goals are up. They have been extremely popular. There were kids playing out there prior to the council meeting. I will have Adirondack chairs, out by this weekend. So I went with some Dillon colors. We're getting 10 chairs total. There'll be a mix of blue, green, and white. And we're going to start by setting them up on the corner of Lake Dillon Drive and Levante. And they are, because they're high quality chairs, we want to secure these to the soil, and we'll tie them all together and just see what works as far as that. Pickleball court is moving along. They will be back on site tomorrow to finish the fencing and should have the fencing all wrapped up by the end of this week, and then potentially start painting by next week. So we're still looking at kind of first week of September potential opening for that much anticipated facility. My team has been helping the marina a lot. Obviously with water levels dropping, they have to drop the gangways. We've been helping them construct a road down to the shore. That involved burying the fuel line and the power cables for the rental dock. So it's a challenging project, as well as setting new anchor blocks for the shores. I'm sure Craig can get into that more. The cemetery surveying marker project is in progress. The surveys have been out there putting rebar markers to accurately represent the corner of every lot. Adrian and I had a chance to test that out last week. It's actually extremely helpful. Really helps with our efficiency out there. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
There was a big thank you from the business community about the new wayfinding signs at the front entrance. That's been many or several, I guess many, the business people just want to thank you for putting those up.
Awesome. Yeah, Suzanne and the events team actually kind of designed and got those signs ordered for us. And we are still working on trying to get the sale signs. I just reviewed another proof of what we're going to put on those sale signs. So hopefully in coming weeks, we'll get those up too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Evan. We'll move on to Dillon Keystone Police Chief's report. Chief Osborne.
Also like to stand, but I'm not as tall as Evan. I did not submit a written report, but quick update, especially staffing update. We had a new officer start yesterday. Chris Cottle has joined our team. So we look forward to him moving through the FTO program. We have another officer that's starting the academy next week. And big shout out to Sean McKenna, who's been here a short time, but has increased our efficiency when it comes to posting, going through posting, onboarding, all of the things HR that we have been missing for a very long time. We have a larger pool of CSO applicants that we are going to not only work through, but have interviews and hopefully find the right person for our team for the next CSO position. So we really look forward to that. We look forward to getting one of our employees back off of baby leave. And we lost one to baby leave today because they added a new person to their team today. So congratulations to them. And I didn't take any questions tonight.
Questions from? Thank you so much, Chief. Move on to Events and Recreation Director's Report. Jesse, but I don't see Jesse here, so we'll move on. 7.4 Marina Director's Report. Craig Simpson.
Good evening. You probably haven't seen these before, but I do actually wear glasses. I don't know if they make me look older or smarter or shorter. I don't know. I also did not submit a written report. It honestly didn't make sense. So everything that's happened between last Thursday and now is, it's quite a bit. So with our rental dock, when we moved it from the top of the wall down to the sea bottom, one of the breakaway connections broke away. So we didn't have fuel on the rental dock for about a week. We got that problem solved. Now A dock, rental dock, B dock, and C dock have all now moved down to the, lake bottom, the lake surface, excuse me. Tomorrow we'll probably see maybe D and E also go down. As mentioned, Public Works is helping us out big time to grade out the pathway. Please keep in mind that Denver Water is a wonderful partner, honestly. And the rule is we cannot add or take away from any of the lake bottom material. But what they are allowing us to do is put in things that can be removed. So for last weekend, given the significant rainfall that we had, we're learning a lot of lessons. So for Saturday, we built out of concrete tiles with exposed aggregate. We built basically a sidewalk. And then between then and now, we've had to move those so we can continue to grade out this pathway as it goes down. But yes, thankfully, our Public Works Department is amazing. Otherwise, we're actually doing quite well. I know it may sound surprising. I've been happily surprised. We really haven't had complaints. Mostly what we've had is compliments on the efforts that are going into keeping us going. We're going to go as long as we can. We're losing about an inch of water a day, or maybe every 30 hours, but it's going down, and without something significant, it's going to continue to go down. So we will keep an eye on that and give our customers notice when we think they need to start pulling out. We also moved A dock. You probably wouldn't even notice, but we moved it significantly towards the north and east because our ramp and A dock were starting to converge. So A dock has moved over, which is a huge undertaking. We are hoping very soon to have Summit County Search Rescue dive team come and basically just gear up and walk down our ramp to make sure that we don't have cables crossing that ramp or anchor blocks that are sitting on it, because we can move that stuff. Other than that, we're doing everything we can. People are happy. Tiki Bar's killing it. The place is going off. It's awesome. And people really like the music. And yeah, I don't know the numbers, but I am pretty sure we're going to see that they're breaking every record probably ever set down there. So that's all I have. I'm open to any questions.
How is Frisco doing?
They are definitely suffering. They still have moorings in place. I know that they were told to let go of their seasonal staff, which is a huge hit to them. So I consider myself and us very lucky that we're on this side of the lake. We still have water.
many feet do you think it is from the first boat to the? Pretty deep or?
It depends on the dock. Yeah, it's pretty deep. I mean, we're still talking anywhere from 16 to 25 feet. But the docks are going out. So we're maintaining that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Craig.
we're going to keep it up.
Good job.
We got this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8, council meeting agenda review. Scott?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I will call to your attention that under 3.4 is the consideration, this is under the consent agenda, consideration of the approval for the use of town-owned property related to the Dillon Open this year. This is routine. This is something we do every year. So that wasn't an item in the work session discussion. It's just, we have the Dillon Open every year. And so we put that under consent agenda. We will be, of course, reviewing resolutions related to the budget that we went over in work session. And again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council questions?
So, I have a problem with some of the things that are listed under the consent agenda, even though I understand why they're there, but I would like to see either the citizen comments before the consent agenda or, more stuff put after the citizen comments, because citizens can't comment on what's on the consent agenda if we have the citizen comments after the consent agenda. And some things that go on the consent agenda, I think some citizens might want to talk about. If you understand what I mean,
I would defer to Catherine on whether there's any standard for that.
Can't recall if your council rules set out the agenda low. Adrian's nodding yes. and
Right.
Kicking me under the table. Not really. No, she's not. I can look up those quickly and I think that's something they could take into consideration. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And, the bill list, the payroll ledger and stuff like that. Usually most people never talk about, but then there's some things like, like town-owned property use and stuff like that.
Right.
That are on there that may in the future be something a citizen might want to talk about.
Yeah, it's not uncommon that we have a separate set of rules that lays out the agenda flow.
Yeah.
So we'll look
Okay.
and see whether it's just something that could be changed or if it would require more steps and approval.
I thought, and I understand what you're saying for sure, but I thought that citizen comments couldn't pertain to anything on the agenda. Or is that not right?
Citizen comments can be whatever they want to talk about. I mean, they could come in here and tell you about how the sky is.
Okay.
And we don't have to interact with them.
Exactly. It's not a dialogue back and forth. It's more a way for them to share information, concerns, requests with you. So it can relate to something on the agenda, but it doesn't have to. I think what you're suggesting is it might influence your decision whether to keep something on a consent agenda.
Yeah.
So we can look into that and get back to you.
You thinking maybe if it's a public hearing on the agenda that it comments relating to that during the public hearing?
But keep in mind, we put the first reading of a public hearing on the consent agenda, and all that does is establish the date for the second reading in the public hearing. So when we do that, that's just really the mechanics of setting up testimony for when the date occurs for that public hearing.
Yeah.
So when we do that, there is no debate really when we're establishing the date for a public hearing, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I was just saying, like, when we have a public hearing that has been set and it is on the agenda, like, comments regarding that are within the public hearing. Yeah.
That's
like
what,
that.
that's.
They are, yes.
That's what I
you're-
thought maybe you were.
But
Yes.
those resolutions do not have, resolutions don't have a second hearing. And that's what I'm saying. Some things come before us that are resolutions that only don't have a public hearing that citizens can't comment on until afterwards.
But we don't ever put a resolution in the consent agenda, I don't believe.
Well,
You have to vote on it.
Right.
um,
So typically it's just what you see here, which is the minutes, the bill list, any excused absences.
yeah, and then, but you also have the consideration of approval to use town-owned land, which is a resolution, not a ordinance, so it doesn't have a second hearing.
Agreed, but yeah, we just didn't think that, the approval of the Dillon Open was necessarily worthy of a resolution, unless you disagree.
Well, I just want to
Make sure that citizens have an opportunity to comment.
to talk about
Understood.
resolutions, so any future, I mean, I don't mind
Right.
although if somebody did have something to say about it, they could until after we approved it. Just saying, yeah. But everything else is, it's resolutions that I'm really worried about having public comment before we vote on it.
Yeah, because you have to vote on a resolution, it's always going to appear, it will never be a part of the regular meeting.
Okay. And then I don't have a problem with that as long as they keep that in mind.
I know on June 16th, we had 3 resolutions in the consent agenda.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, and you do vote on resolutions that are I mean, there's a vote, right? A vote
Right.
to approve the consent agenda is a vote for effectively each.
And my problem is public comment.
Right, and the agenda doesn't have public comment on each item. You're just saying if somebody wanted to comment on an item in the consent agenda, you would want to hear that before voting on the agenda.
Correct.
I can look at what your rules are and if it be changed. I don't know what the council would want to pass.
Something to consider. Think it over.
Other comments? Scott? Thank you, Scott. Then we'll adjourn our work session and 7.